So, welcome back. I'm glad to see so many people joining with us again. I was afraid that our numbers had kind of started to fall over the past few months, but I'm glad to see that we have more people joining in and that y'all are still staying engaged and enjoying these Zoom sessions that we're having. I mean, it is better than not getting to see each other at all. So I'm glad for what we're able to do. But I do have some good news for 2021. So this is the plan for meetings next year because I know some people have been wondering. So I've gone ahead and reserved the research center where we generally have our meetings for us for 2021. And what I'm thinking is January and February, we will still meet only virtual because, I'm figuring flu season mixed in with this COVID stuff might get a little sketchy. So we're going to keep doing virtual for January and February. But then for March on, we are going to have a live meeting at the research center, but only 50 people can be there. So we're going to have to sign up if you want to come to the meeting in person. I'm going to use our signup.com that we use for our projects, that same thing. If you are wanting to come to the meeting that month, you need to sign up on there. And I'm also going to broadcast the meeting live virtually for those who, number one, aren't the 50 that get signed up, and registration closes, or you just don't feel comfortable attending in person, which is completely fine, and I understand. And so we're still going to have that option. Now, I think just for simplicity's sake, we are probably going to stream our meeting on Facebook Live from our closed Master Gardener group. Does that make sense? So instead of you registering for a Zoom link and it getting mailed to you and back and forth and all this, we're just going to stream it live on Facebook, but you will have to be on our Master Gardener members only Facebook page to be able to see it, because obviously it's not we're not open to the public. So that is the plan for 2021. So we're calling it a hybrid. I feel like that's what everybody's calling everything. We're going to do a hybrid approach. So meeting in person with 50 people or less, you have to register, and everybody else or anyone who would rather can still follow us on Facebook Live and get to hear the education and get updated on business and all that kind of stuff. So,
Celeste,
yes, ma'am.
Does the Facebook Live still record? This is Linda.
It does. It records automatically, so you'll be able to go back to our Facebook group and see that later. So that'll be.
Thank you.
And that actually frees me up a lot because I spend a lot of time going back and editing our Zooms and getting them in a format where you can watch them again. Like, it takes me a while to do that. So I'm the Facebook Live automatic recording and posting for later viewing is going to be super, super nice. So that's what we're planning for 2021. We do have the spring plant sale on the schedule. So it comes early this year. It's actually May 1st is the first Saturday in May. So we're going to be doing that. I'm sure it will look different than it has in years past. We will likely be all outside, I would assume, Jason. We haven't gotten deep into planning for that, but I'm just kind of letting y'all know. I kind of want to get you going for next year. Since this is our last meeting of the year, I kind of want to give you some good vibes for 2021. So don't count us out for that. We still got that going on. Also, while we're talking about meeting in person, we are going to have a going away shindig for the Sams. I've talked to them, and they are going to be in town on December 4th. That's a Friday. That's the first Friday in December. And we're going to have it at the Research Center, and it will be from 10 until 12. And again, we can't have more than 50 people there at a time. So I'm gonna put a sign up where you can sign up for 30-minute sessions, and it's just a come and go. You can come hang out, talk, eat a cupcake, get a drink. It'll just be a come and go thing, but you know that you're supposed to come in between this 30-minute session, if that makes sense. A lot of people have told me already that they wanted to help with this. If you are still feeling like you would like to help in some form, whether it's helping with some pretty decorations up at the front where the Sam's will be, or helping us with some snacky type kind of foods that are packaged individually. If you could just type your name in the chat box, and that way I have a record of it. Just say like your name and then put, Sam's party or something like that, so that I can go back and see that. And I'll be getting in touch with you all next week for us to go ahead and start making some plans for that. And so that's going to be our first time that we get to see each other since all this has started. So that'll be fun. Of course, you'll have to wear a mask, we'll social distance. We have to do record keeping, like I got to write everybody's name down when you come in and scan your forehead, stuff like that. But whatever, we're doing it. We're going to do it. So I feel like I'm taking up so much time. That's why I'm going so fast, because I want y'all to be able to hear Jason talk. My last update is that we are going to I'll say this, I am going to try something new for spring 2021. We always have our Master Gardener training session in the fall and have never had one in the spring since I've been here, but I'm going to try one this spring because our statewide program is offering a new virtual statewide training program. And in this program, the students will receive about 3/4 of their training in a synchronous virtual lecture series, okay? So they're not watching things that are recorded. They're participating in a live event just like you and I are right now. But all the classes will be taught by each of our specialists in that area, essentially the people who wrote the chapters in the handbook. And then the other 1/4 of their education, which amounts to about 10 hours, will be spent with me. So that's how we are still going to be able to maintain that connection to the local organization. So I'm going to try to, first of all, I'm going to see if I can get anybody to sign up, because people don't even know to sign up, because everyone I feel like in the area knows that it's in the fall. So I'm going to try to do some promotions and see if we can get, it doesn't have to be a huge class. We're just going to try it out and see how it works, see how people like it. And if they feel like it's not for them, I'm just going to say, that's okay. You can join us in the fall when we have our traditional Master Gardener training. So I just wanted y'all to know that that was happening, because I'm fixing to start pushing that out on social media. And if people are asking you about it, I didn't want you to be like, oh no, we only do our training in the fall, because it's a new thing. So we'll see how it goes. So with that being said, I'm going to stop talking, and I would like to say that everybody knows Jason, but we have a lot of our interns on the call with us tonight, so everyone doesn't know Jason. So Jason Reeves is
we need to elect officers.
Oh gosh, I forgot.
I thought you had.
I'm so glad you said that. Okay, take it away before Jason talks.
Oh, okay. We're going to elect new officers. Charlotte Jacquet, President. Vice President of Programs, Nancy Blair. Board members, Philip Mullins, and is it David Chillop? Collop. Okay. So that's the nominees. The nominating committee came up with those 4 people for us to elect for the 2021.
Okay, yes. So thank you so much for announcing those. Do we want to, I mean, do any of the, I mean, they all obviously accepted their nomination. We didn't
Yeah.
just like, institute it upon them. They were asked and accepted the nomination. And I realize how this could be a little convoluted since we are meeting virtually, but does anybody have any nominations for any of those positions that we need to entertain from the floor? Because we can certainly do that. And if you do, you can just unmute yourself. I'm just going to give you a few seconds to think about it. Okay, so hearing no nominations from the floor, I would like for you, if you are willing to accept this nomination slate as presented in its entirety, could you please go to your chat box and type in yes and enter? And likewise, if you disagree with the slate and do not want to accept, you could type no in the chat box and select enter. Y'all are so good. You make my life so easy. You just know how to do it. That's good. Okay, so it's looking like it's a yes. Woo! Celebration party!
Yay!
I'm so glad we've got some new leadership coming in to fill some of these positions, and I want to personally say thank you to everyone who has served on the board and is now moving on to general membership. I have appreciated everything that you have done for us, helping to organize our meetings. There's no way that we could do this without an executive body, and I just really appreciate all that y'all do to support me and to help our organization be as successful as it is. So thank y'all and welcome new board members. We will be sending you a welcome email in the near future with plans of what to expect in the months to come. So with that being said, now I'll move on to introducing Jason. Jason Reeves is the curator of the grounds at the UT Gardens here in Jackson. And I guess he could really tell you his own background obviously a little better than I could, but he's been there for a number of years and has really transformed. I mean, essentially the gardens were non-existent until Jason came, and they started developing all those areas out there and recruiting companies to do trials and demonstration areas. And we are just so happy that we have him, because he takes part in a lot of the things that the Master Gardeners do here in Madison County, and he offers tons of volunteer service opportunities for us to be able to help out there at the gardens. And we have just a really unique relationship with the Research Center that not many Master Gardener organizations get to have, because they don't have this right here in their backyard. So so happy that we do, and thankful that we get to work closely with them. And I would like to say welcome, Jason, and I will let you take it from there.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me this evening. And yeah, so a few of you who were on earlier heard a little bit of this, but I am actually sitting in a hotel room in actually Sioux Falls. I think I said Fort Dodge earlier, but in Sioux Falls, Iowa. About 10 days ago, my sister called me. She said, "Are you up for a road trip?" And I was like, "Well, maybe." And she's going to be 30 in January, and she wanted to have visited 30 states before she turns 30, and she lacked 3. So she decided she and my mother and I would fly from Jackson to Fort Dodge, Iowa, and we're going to do this big road trip. So we got here this evening. We flew through St. Louis, and tomorrow we're going to see the falls here, and then we're going to head to Pipe shoot, I've just forgotten. Pipestone National Monument in just in the edge of Minnesota. And then we're going to over to South Dakota and hit Pierre, or actually I think it's called Pierre. If you live here, it's Pierre. And then south to one of the national reserves, wildlife reserves in Nebraska, down to Omaha, over to Des Moines, and then Ames, and then flying back out. So we're going to be gone a week, and we're going to hit some gardens along the way, and the weather's great here right now. So anyway, that's, yeah, this is the first time I've done a Zoom from a hotel room. Here we go. So I just had a few things I want to mention before I share my screen and before we get started on my talk. Celeste has already mentioned the plant sale, and we are gearing up for the plant sale big time. This is the first time ever that I've really gotten all my orders done this early. I'm virtually done with our spring orders, our trees and shrubs, our annuals, our perennials, our all our plants. And the main reason is I haven't traveled this fall. I haven't taken any vacation. This is actually, I've taken 2 days of vacation, 1 day of vacation up until this week since COVID. So I've been busy working, and so got all the orders in. And our fall sale was so successful, being over a couple days, that Celeste and I haven't talked about this, or I haven't mentioned to her yet, but I'm really thinking that we might actually start our sale a day or even 2 days early. And especially if we're having to limit the number, we'll have to do that. But even if we're not, for our sake, I think we could sell a lot more plants. Our spring sale, the spring online sale that you participated in, was I mean, we sold plants, and y'all were very patient. Everybody that bought plants was very kind and understanding. I'll tell you, it was an extreme amount of work, and it was not worth our effort. And we would not do that again. It's just there's too much smaller staff than like Knoxville has, and we have such a huge offering that it wasn't the best thing. But the fall sale was record. I mean, it was quadruple what it normally is, and so it really helped. We're still 60,000 less than a normal year, but I feel really good about what we did this fall. And I really appreciate all the people's patience and helping with the fall sale and helping get the word out. And it was just, when the numbers came in from the fall sale, I was like, oh my word, this is fantastic. So
I know that we sent that out in an email like right after the plant sale happened, but for those maybe who don't remember, the Master Gardener portion from the sale was $3,175. Yay!
So yeah, that was great.
Awesome.
And Celeste, do you remember what our portion was? It was around 30. It was around 30,000. Of course, we had a little sale, 5-10 days after that, where we discounted everything, and we did well at that. And so yeah, our fall sale was really good. So we more or less broke even. Maybe we made a little bit of profit this year, but there is a lot of cost involved in, of course, producing all these plants. So I feel good about it. It turned out to be a good end to the year, and we are really gearing up for next year. And so we're going to have lots of great plants, and I'm excited about it. So hope everything will go well, and COVID will have slowed down by then, and we'll be able to have a sale as normal. But if not, we'll work with it. I mean, again, the timing, the way we did the fall sale worked well. So I also wanted to mention that a few of you have contacted me that you are close to getting your 100 hours in this year, despite the situation. And so those couple people that have contacted me are looking for a few more hours, and I've got some things they can do. So if you're still trying to get your 100 hours in, that's awesome, and I can make it happen. So let me know. You can email me. Again, I'm on the road for a week, but you can email me and let me know, and we'll get it worked out, and you can get those hours in and be one of those that's reached 100. So that's great. The other thing I wanted to mention that I know last year in January, February, we talked about the amaryllis, and then I've sent an email out a couple weeks ago. They were having this amaryllis sale. Of course, the original plan was it was going to be today, this afternoon, before the meeting in the lobby. It was going to be open to the public. That, of course, was unable to happen. To be honest with you, because of COVID, we actually don't have the bulbs yet. So it wouldn't, they're not here. They're actually at Port in Richmond, Virginia, and they should be here at the end of the week or the first of next week. And Carson and I just tried to figure out how to do this. So we're doing the site, what's it called, Celeste? The program you use?
Sign up.
Sign up. Yeah, we're using the sign up. So we actually started that today for members of the UT Gardens. So I know a lot of you are members of the Gardens. And so we made that available to those friends of the Gardens today. And then Monday, you will get an email from me that will invite you to participate in that sale. I will tell you that we've already sold over half of them in less than 12 hours. So they are $20 each. They are big, nice bulbs.
They're
So
beautiful. They're beautiful.
unfortunately, I can't get any more. So if we sell out, we're out, because these we ordered from Holland direct. And so they ship over once a year and that's it. So if we do sell out, I'm sorry, we will plan even bigger and better next year. So look for that email on Monday. And again, you'll go on to sign up to actually sign up for your plant. And the email will explain everything, pickup time and all that. So just look for that on Monday morning if you are not a Friends of the Garden and haven't already gotten that invitation. So, okay. I think I'm ready to share a screen if I can figure out how. So let's
Okay,
see.
so I can talk you through it.
Oh, actually, I see it. I see it.
Oh, good.
I got it going on, I think.
Look at you.
All right.
Newbie. Catching on so fast.
Okay. Do you see it?
Perfect. Yep, looks perfect.
Okay. So, yeah, just a little bit about my talk tonight before I delve into it. So, in July, I was invited to attend the Ball, or maybe in the 1st of August, can't remember for sure, but the Ball open house in West Chicago, Illinois. And Ball is one of our major trial companies, and Ball owns a lot of companies. It's actually called Ball Horticulture, and they own Ball Flora Plant, and they own Darwin Perennials, and Pan American Seed, and Burpee, and I'm forgetting a couple more, Selecta. And so they own numerous companies. It's the largest ornamental horticulture company in the world. And their national headquarters, or their international headquarters, their headquarters are in West Chicago. So I was invited to attend their open house with some guidelines, with COVID restrictions and such. They had timed entries and you had to do all this ahead of time. Well, at the time, the policy was with the university, you could not travel out of state. So on work time. So I actually took, I guess I have been on vacation, working vacation. I took leave, 1 day of leave, and left on an early Friday morning, or actually Thursday evening it was, after work, and drove up to West Chicago and spent Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the Ball trials, but visiting a lot of other gardens as well. And if you look at this slide here, I just needed to get away. And, I think one way we can get away from whatever's going on in the world, even right now, is get out into the garden. So I love this. You can see I edited it to say, and into the garden I go to lose my mind and find my soul. And of course, the original saying was forest, but either way, getting outdoors is such a relief and therapy to all of us. And so I'm going to take you into the garden and gardens this evening and look at some fun plants and see some gardens. Many of you have been to these gardens. Some of you have been with me when we visited these gardens on a Chicago trip I did about 5 years ago. I hope to repeat that trip in a few years. So we're going to get started, and we're starting in West Chicago. All right, what have I done wrong now? All right. Let's see here.
Did you
So
click?
am I on full screen there?
You are on full screen.
Okay, so when I click my arrow, it goes to black. What am I doing?
Click it again. Click your arrow one more time.
It goes back to not full screen.
Weird.
All right, so let's see here.
Oh, it's because you're on the last slide. Somehow that slide got moved to the very end. See, it says.
Well, I actually have it at both.
Oh, okay. That's why. Now start from the beginning.
All right, here we go. All right, so into the garden we go. So again, this is in West Chicago, which is 30 or so minutes west of downtown Chicago. And again, it's the Ball headquarters. And so they have trial gardens there, trialing new plants, but also tried and true plants. So it is not open to the public. Now you can make arrangements to visit the garden, but you just can't walk in. Again, it's on their headquarters. During this time, again, it was open for commercial industry to come, and we had timed entries. We wore a mask the entire time we were there. We were taken around by Ball employees, and we were limited to the amount of time we could stay there. So it was very, very restricted, but we had a great time. So this is an aerial shot of their headquarters. This is the front of the building. In the back side, you can see some greenhouses, and the gardens are more in that area. There's their trial garden. So this is an area that you're seeing here that kind of the senior screen there is the true trials, where they're growing plants that they're probably not on the market yet. So it's plants they've introduced, but also they grow some from other companies as well. They also trial for All America Selection and do work for them as well. So you can see those kind of traditional beds there where they're in block style, and just a few more shots of it. You can tell they have iron in their water. If you look at the concrete, how stained it is. Yeah, and just a couple more aerial views of the gardens there. And so those first few pictures were provided me by Ball. They emailed and they sent me those aerial shots. So this is my picture when we arrived and going into the garden. So again, one of the companies, Pan American Seed. So Seed is one of their divisions of the company, where it's all things grown from seed. Pan American is a very large seed company, and they provide seed to other companies like Park Seed, for instance. And so they're wholesale, but they also sell right to growers. So a lot of plant material that grown from seed at your greenhouse would have come from Pan American. And so I get a lot from Pan American. They actually provide me, they let me go through the catalog and select things to grow just for the sales. So it's nice of them for that. This year is the 25th anniversary of Wave Petunias. Can you believe that? Celeste, you're not even old enough to remember. So I remember seeing my first Wave Petunia in 1997. So it actually came on the market, or it was introduced in 1995. And of course, it took several years for it to take off. But in 1997, in the spring, or in January, I started grad school in Knoxville. And that summer, we had the Wave Petunia, the Purple Wave, which was the first one that came out. And we were all like, this is incredible. It hugged the ground. It bloomed nonstop. It didn't look like wet tissue paper after it rained on it. The bloom held up. It was just fantastic. And so from that, we are still growing Purple Wave. It's still a great petunia. You can still purchase this plant. There's been so many introductions from that. Then there was Pink Wave and White Wave and all these different waves. And then they came up with Shock Wave and then Easy Wave and Tidal Wave. Tidal Wave is one of my favorites. Tidal Wave goes up and goes out. So Tidal Wave can be a couple feet tall and 3 or 4 feet wide, where the wave is a kind of ground cover type that's only a few inches tall, but really wide. So there's a whole, so that was a breeding breakthrough.
Hey, Jason, I appreciate the comment about how I was too young to remember that, but I did the math. Technically, I was 10 years old when the Wave Petunia came out. And so literally, I do not remember a gardening world without Wave Petunia. So, I mean, it's, you could compare that to, like, my kids have no idea what a house phone is.
Yeah, true.
No idea what a world without Wave Petunia looked like. And it was probably ugly.
So they were really celebrating, when we were visiting Ball, they were celebrating the 25th anniversary of Waves. So they had Wave Petunias and Shock Waves and Tidal Waves in everything. And so it was really fun to see all the breeding through the years. And we actually met the hybridizer who came up with it from the get-go. She still works for, actually, I'll show you her picture in a few minutes. She still works for the company. And so the foreground there is Tidal Wave Silver. And I think the middle there is maybe Purple Wave. Kind of hard for me to see on my screen, but lots of different waves. So yeah, I'm just going to take you and show you how they trial plants, how they're showcasing plants. Again, it's Chicago. It gets hot in the summer, but it gets cool at nighttime. And so it's amazing the difference in some of the plants that we have in the garden in Jackson this year. I mean, I got up there, I was already dead, and I got up there and theirs look fantastic. So cool nights make a big difference. It's a little less humidity there as well, but they do get some hot days. I mean, they definitely get in the 90s. Those of you who went on my trip a few years ago, it was record-setting heat the week we were there, so you'll remember how hot it was. So it does get hot, but those cool temperatures at night make a big difference. So, of course, beautiful hanging baskets in the gardens there. This is on drip irrigation, so they do. They don't have to hand water all these. This is Caliber Koi, the Million Bells, or some of the different types of Caliber Koi. And this is a new petunia that came out this year called Bee's Knees. And we had this in the garden. I will tell you, by the end of July, it was dead. All 25 or whatever we had of these. It was beautiful, though, before it, when we first put it in the ground, beautiful yellow. So I actually took a couple home and put them in pots. And they lasted a little longer in pots, but they still didn't take the heat. So again, seeing these plants in different climates, like, wow, they're fantastic. And, you know, it doesn't make me feel like I'm just a total loser, knowing that the temperatures that are cooler at nighttime. So look at all these fun colors. The world of petunias is absolutely incredible. Again, a lot of those don't do so well in our heat and humidity in the South. You know, for instance, we've had this one multiple times. It's usually dead by the end of July, and also it loses that yellow, kind of creamy yellow around the edge of it from the heat. So some of the petunias, the heat affects the color of the flower. Same way with this one. We had this one last year, and it was picotee for about 2 weeks. It was beautiful, and then when it got hot, it lost that picotee, and then it was gone by the end of July. And look at these beautiful baskets here. So just spectacular. Verbena, we had many of these verbenas in the garden this year. And if you were in the garden in June and July, you would have seen these looking beautiful. When it got hot mid-July, they quit blooming, and they really didn't start back till just a couple of weeks ago. Whereas, again, a cooler climate, that they really hang on. And then geraniums, of course, we all know geraniums prefer a climate that's less humidity, but aren't they gorgeous? So it's kind of cool seeing these in the climate that they're happy. And so this is the breeder here that originally bred the tidal wave, the wave petunia, 25 years ago. So I think she was relatively new with the company at the time. And she's working on all sorts of things now. But within the company, they're working on these this new line of plants called Kitchen Minis. And these are very, very compact dwarf vegetables that will set fruit inside your house, and will produce in low light conditions, but they're determinate. Is that right? Where it stops, they produce all at one time. So really, they're going to be sold at grocery stores. That's their plan, kind of like those little fresh pots of herbs that you would buy at the grocery store. They're going to be sold with fruit already beginning to form on them. You're going to take it home, put it in the house, and you're going to harvest off of it when they start ripening, probably for just 2 or 3 weeks, and then it'll be disposable. But think about it, you know, for $4 or $5, I'm not sure how much they're going to cost. You're going to get this little, this fresh fruit that you can have, or vegetables in your house. But look at those. Again, they've really been breeding those.
That is blowing my mind.
Yeah, that's crazy. They do, as you can see, they got some little bamboo skewers on there. They are kind of top heavy, and they kind of have to stake them. But they got, so yeah, here's a little bit about it. It says, the new Kitchen Mini collection are potted vegetable plants consumers can grow inside a sunny windowsill or counter without a garden. They can also be grown outside on a tabletop patio. Kitchen Minis encourage consumers to grow and harvest their own homegrown vegetables throughout the year. And then it talks about a tomato there. So plant benefits from being grown on the dry side, support fruits by inserting sticks or chopsticks in there and close to the central stem. So yeah, isn't that fun? I think that's just going to be, and you know, maybe not so much for master gardeners. I mean, yeah, we'll have fun with it, but we also grow the real thing outside. But for so many people that don't have a place, I mean, just think about the people that live in Jackson in the lift. That, you know, when I sold plants at the farmer's market from Melodia Hill, there's so many people wanted to know what they could grow inside the house on the windowsill. Well, not anything we have here. But I think this will be fun. So, you know, it'll introduce gardening and fresh produce to a different clientele. And there's one little peppers. So again, they'll all produce within 2 or 3 weeks, and then you'll have to throw it away and then buy a new one. So again, it's kind of like buying a pot of basil that you would keep in the house for a few weeks and cut off of it and then start all over. So yeah, this one's called Hot Lemon. And so I'm excited about that. So it's just another shot of those. So Kitchen Minis. So supposedly they'll be available next year. That doesn't mean we'll see them in Tennessee, but in some, I'm sure in bigger cities, they'll be more readily available, and then they eventually trickle down to the smaller towns. So here's a few shots of the trials. Again, they do All American Selection along with their own plants as well. So yeah, I'm really excited about this new compact zinnia. It's either going to be a Profusion or a Zahara. We don't know the name right now. It is going to be an All-American Selection winner. And of course, they're just calling it Entry Red and Yellow Bicolor, but I'm sure it'll have a better name than that. But isn't that fantastic? I love those colors. Those are fun combinations. So we will probably, I'm thinking it will be in our display garden next year. It probably won't be available for sale till the following year. So normally when it's named, we get it a year ahead with All-American Selection, and then the following year it will be available for sale. So I'm excited about that.
It's reminded me of a little version of Zowie, kind of.
Yeah, it does. It does with that bicolor flower. So yeah, a compact form of that. So that's exciting. So there's a big planting of those. This is a pepper we grow in the garden each year. We've had this one. This is a roulette, one of the All-American Selection winter peppers. And I just like how they've grown them in a container here. They've used a colorful tomato stake around it, or those tomato cages. So you would put that around the pepper when it's young. Of course, it grows up through in it. And I actually asked them, they did cut some of the bottom branches off to make it a little bit more like a tree in a pot. So it's a little fun. I really like the way they did that. So again, we have this one. We grew this one in the grounds this year and last year. So just showing you that you can grow some of the even larger peppers that are not necessarily patio in a container, as long as you're willing to water them and of course stake them like they're doing here. So I thought that was really fun. So this is a mock-up of a house. It's not real, but it's just, again, they're testing plants for window boxes and showing you how you can use them in different combinations. And then I never thought about this. They are using a lot of the Sriracha series, or I've gone blank what their series of coleus is, but they're using them in containers. And they're mixing them up, and you could actually order, I could order as a wholesale grower, or as a grower, I can order a mixture of them called Pico de Gallo. So it's a mixture of different colors of those series of coleus, and I think they're fun mixed together. Isn't that really cool? Look at that in the hanging baskets. So, we don't do hanging baskets at the station because it is a lot of work. We have to water them every day, or we're going to have to put some kind of drip on them. But someday down the road, we may try our hand at some of those. But I think just, again, in a large container, mixing those together would be fun. So isn't that beautiful? I love that together.
So pretty.
So, we'll offer some of these at the spring sale, and you can just mix them together. Buy one of each and scramble them all up. But, with the coleus, you would definitely want to be sure it's in the same series or similar size, because if you planted this beside Color Blaze Golden Dreams, it's going to get 3 foot tall. It would eat it alive. So you got to keep that in mind when you're mixing them up. But I love that combination there. So much fun. Also new that will be on the market either next year or the next is a sweet potato vine that has a tendency to climb more so than just trailing on the ground. It will trail as well, but look at that. So they've planted it at the base of some wire, and it's running along. I'm sure they had to get it started a little bit and encourage it, but isn't that fun? So we could have and you know how fast sweet potato vine grows. That would be almost, you plant that in a week later, you got a screen. So that'll be fun plant to have. So don't know the name of it yet, but we'll be promoting it if we get it and have it available. For those of you who made it to the gardens this year, and I hope you got a chance to walk through the gardens, we have this new salvia called Lancelot. And it didn't flower very well for us because we had this little caterpillar that got on it and ate the flower buds off. But you can see here at Ball, it was in flower. So I plan on having it next year for the sale. It is so different than any salvia that I've ever grown before. It looks a lot like a miniature lambsy. The leaf does. It's just about 3 inches long and about 1 inch across. So like a very, very velvety and fuzzy. And it ends up coming up to about 18 to 24 inches in height when it gets ready to flower. So good drainage is really important with it. Any fuzzy leaf plant, of course, likes good drainage and less humidity. But it did well even in our humidity. So look for that at our plant sale next year. Another plant I'm excited about that's going to be, I'm pretty sure, an All-American Selection winner is this new Celosia. And right now they're just calling it Entry Rose. There's the name of it. But look at that. Isn't that fantastic? Got the beautiful burgundy foliage as well as flower on it. And look how profuse this is. It is blooming like crazy. So I'm excited about that too. So again, that'll be an All-American Selection winner. So that was kind of the trial gardens there in the actual true trial part. And then they have just general display gardens where they're planting masses of plant material. And if you look at the far left there, that's Calomel grostis, featherweed reedgrass, which does not do well in the heat of the South, unfortunately. So that's a perennial, so that's there, from year to year. So as we go through these next slides, again, they're all at Ball. There's shrubs, trees, perennials, annuals, all mixed together just for display purposes. So just showing you how you can use them and how well they perform in the garden. So they had different sections of different color themes here. Obviously, we've got a blue or purple, really a purple color theme, and then we've got yellow here. So again, there's a mixture of perennials and shrubs and annuals all together there. So a lot of fun seeing that. Love, love, love this combination. So this is a Zinnia Zowie Yellow Flame. I'm sorry, Zinnia Zahara Double Yellow. Zinnia Zahara Double Yellow. Been around for 10 years probably now. We've sold it on and off through the years. Easy to grow. But they've mixed it with Purple Prince Alton and Thera, which we also sell at our plant sale. And for those of you who visit the gardens, I like to mix things together. And, the last few years, I've mixed a lot of warrior onion coming through different plant materials. Or in the parking lot, we have the mother-in-law's tongue and the bat-faced kufia together. So mixing plants together is something I think we don't do enough of. You do have to really keep in mind when you're doing that, the plant needs to be a similar growth habit. You don't have something that's 5 feet tall and 3 feet wide, hit a plant underneath it that's 6 inches tall. You got to keep in mind they need to be similar in growth habit. And I'm sure you probably have to come in there and trim a little bit of this Altonandera out if it gets a little out of hand. But I just think that combination is beautiful. So these are seed-grown Altonanderas. Again, we sell these each year. I typically sell the one on the left called Purple Prince. I have had Purple Night over there, but I've never actually grown them together where you can see the difference in them. So this is a neat comparison here of the different size leaves and the vigor that they have. So again, Purple Prince on the left. We always have that one at the sale. So it's great just for that foliage. A little petunia, and again, they grow things that don't actually belong to the ball family. This is from Syngenta, and you may not know Syngenta is a big chemical company, but they also, and a big seed company as far as ag seed, but they also do ornamentals as well. And this is what I'm hoping we're going to be able to get next year for the sale. This is Itsy Magenta. Isn't that cute? So I just threw that's a bee's knees. I threw a standard petunia flower in there with it just so you could see the size of the flower a bit. But man, look how vigorous that was. Just great little petunias. So. The petunias do better. Well, if you're looking for a small flower, if you put a calibrachoa in the ground, they can be kind of iffy. They really like good drainage. So if you want a small petunia type flower in the ground, you're better off with a miniature petunia as opposed to a calibrachoa, which is more sensitive to lack of drainage. So
Jason, did you know that Syngenta has been doing some, they're like webinars essentially, and they kind of introduced some of their plant offerings.
Really? No.
Yeah, and I think I just stumbled across it like accidentally on Facebook, and then I signed up for one of them, and then they keep sending me emails for the rest of them. So if people are interested, I'll try to hook everybody up with those.
That sounds like fun. I'll have to check those out. So yeah, just some beautiful pictures, displays there. I love this. This is not Warrior Onion. It's, I forget the name of this particular one, but it's very similar to Warrior, and you could do the very same thing with it, but just look at the drama there. And we grow these Warrior Onions from seed. They're seed grown. They're not grown from the bulb. And you could do the same thing. I will say onions, when they come up, they look like a hair. And you got to be patient and let that hair grow quite a bit before you can do anything with it. And they tend to be floppy when they first come up. But you could order these and grow, you could get a pack of seed and do this yourself. You would need to start those in a pot probably in late March, early April in the house, and then bring them out. Or you could start it after the danger of frost, or even before frost danger, in a little pot, and then you have to transplant them. Isn't that fun? Just the drama. The Warrior Onion is such a great plant and keeps that blue color, even more blue than this one, throughout the summer. So if you haven't grown those onions before for ornamental purposes, I really encourage you to. Love this planting here of the grass sweeping through there. I think it's actually a juncus, and then the coleuses and different plants through there. They've been kind of known for this for some years. They built this, probably 10 years ago, called the Sky Frame Garden. And there are these structures in the garden with these massive boxes, like window boxes that hang from them. And they do different things at different years, but because this was the 25th anniversary of WAVE, they just stuck with petunias this year, but all different kinds of petunias. So pretty amazing. And those do have drip irrigation on them. It's fun to walk under those and look at all the different kinds and cascading down. So a few more shots, just kind of giving you an idea. We all wore masks that day, and people complain about wearing a mask, but I've gotten used to it now. Doesn't bother me. I always think about, well, what about the doctors and nurses that wear them all the time? We're no better than they are. So if you're asked to, we did, and even though we were outside, we kept them on, and we survived. This is a begonia. I think some of you may have tried. It's called Canary Wings, and it's a dragon wing begonia. I'm showing you this, I'm not sure why, because I don't want to encourage you to buy it. It does not do so well in our climate. Dragonwing does great. And again, it's very closely related to gold form, but it doesn't keep that gold foliage in the heat of the south unless you give it some sun, and it doesn't like the sun in the south. So, but I just had to show you these pictures. I mean, they are fantastic. So You know, if you have a mountain home in Gatlinburg, by all means buy some of these and plant them there. Again, if you're in Upper East Tennessee, beyond Knoxville, they still don't do great there. But if you're in southern Northeast, you could grow these and look, they would be beautiful there. So isn't that a fun plant though? Too bad it's not as heat tolerant. I love this display of the shade in the background, and we got the sun zinnias in the foreground of the sun. And then this is the part of the garden that is off limits to people. They said we could peek over the fence and take a photo. So that's what I did. And so these are all plants that have no name. They are growing them to see if they're worth having. So for instance, if you're going to breed Calibrachoa, you might plant out 10,000 seedlings of Calibrachoa in pots, and you might get one good one out of there. So just look at these. I mean, this was like, I mean, you're just looking at a fraction of this. I mean, there's thousands of pots there, all on drip irrigation, and you know, they're checking to see how well they perform. So these are all plants that could potentially hit the market someday. I didn't mention this earlier. Yeah, I did. Darwin is their company that does perennials. So again, that's a wholesale company, and there's Craft Seed in the background, which does even more vegetables. And so these are the perennial trial gardens, or the showcase gardens there. And so you can see all the different perennials in that area of the garden. So we'll run through those. Echinacea, they have a whole series of Echinacea sombre series, and they are doing great there. We have a couple of these, and we actually sold some at our fall plant sale, but we have some of those that are doing good in our garden as well. So these are seed-grown Echinacea, which are more affordable as opposed to the tissue culture forms of Echinacea. But they were looking fantastic in the garden there. So you can see there's a series and different colors. I'm excited about this plant. I love switchgrass, and my favorite one has been Northwind. Northwind in the past has been the strongest upright form, but even with it, if you plant it in an area that has where you've got good enriched soil, or you're watering, after a couple years it's going to be floppy. Well, this is Totem Pole, and Totem Pole is even stronger. And so I actually ordered this plant in February of last year because it was back ordered. So it is coming this spring, and we will have it. I'm not sure if it'll be ready for the spring sale. If not, it will be at summer celebration because it will come in bare root. But hopefully we'll be able to get it rooted in well enough that we can offer it at the spring sale. But so it's a really tall, upright form of switchgrass. And so it's the Prairie Wind series, and this particular cultivar is called Totem Pole. Isn't that fun? I just love the name. I got a totem pole in the garden. How about you? Some of you have bought this plant. This Millennium Allium. You know, it's fantastic. It does great in the south. It does even better in the north, but it's a great allium. We didn't have it for sale this year, but I hope to. We should next year. But I love the alliums. You know, a lot of the alliums, especially the ones with the big bloom, if it's any bigger than an orange, it's not going to do well in the south. Those big flowering forms do not do well. They like really, really good draining soil. They don't like humidity. But these clumpers that have multiple blooms do much better for us. And Millennium is just an excellent one. So just a couple shots of it.
Hey, Jason, speaking of summer celebration, I guess we're just planning on doing that.
We haven't had a meeting yet. And that actually, I'll bring this up right now. I should have brought it up in the beginning. So Dr. Hayes retired. Well, Dr. Hayes retired the very last day of September, and Dr. Scott Stewart began on the 1st of October. And Dr. Stewart has been the entomologist. He actually started the same year I came to the university. He came in 2002, which is the same year that I became full-time. And so he's been the entomologist there since then. A great guy. Celeste and I met with him this week to talk about the SAMS event, and he's easy to work with. And so anyway, Dr. Stewart and I haven't talked about it yet, but I'm thinking we're planning we are, but that may change. I have a feeling we'll have decided by sometime in March for sure, because hopefully in the next couple months we're going to know what's going on with COVID, and so yeah, right now we're planning for summer celebration.
Good.
All right, so our next garden. So again, that was the trial gardens that I went to, and that was the main reason I went to Chicago or West Chicago, was to see our ball reps, and again, they were one of our trial companies. But so then I spent a couple days visiting some other gardens around, and so this is Cantigny, well, I can't say it, Cantigny Gardens, and this was a private estate originally, and now it's a public garden. And some of you, again, have been there with me when we traveled a few years ago to visit. So just a few shots from there. It's also a war memorial and museum. All the inside part was closed due to COVID, but the outside was all open. So this is the original, of course, home. So just a few beautiful shots of it. And they are doing some renovation and actually adding on to the garden and renovating some areas. So lots of fun stuff going on there. But love this combination here of the bromeliads and these pots kind of set amongst the coleus and the petunias and boxwood hedges there. And so just kind of dramatic. I thought that was kind of fun. There are formal gardens, perennial gardens, and statuary scattered about, some water gardens, and some beautiful water features as well. So if you get to the Chicago area, it is what, just a couple miles from Ball, and the Morton Arboretum is also just right there. So there's 3 great gardens close together. Love these hanging baskets. You know, these begonias, the Bolivians, some of those do better than others for us, but isn't that gorgeous? That's mixed again with that Purple Prince Altanentheria hanging there. Love this combination of the different sun impatiens, and coleus. There's a burgundy leaf hibiscus in there, and then the ruellia. It's a beautiful combination. Welcome you to the garden. And then just outside the entrance in the parking lot, or at the edge of the parking lot, were these torpedo-shaped beds, I guess you want to call it, maybe diamond-shaped beds in the lawn. I just thought it was really dramatic. You got this perfectly mowed lawn, and then these plants just jutting out of there. And so they went with the color themes of, you know, blues and purples and burgundies and reds. And I thought this was just really a fun combination. And then I drove on up to Obrecht Garden in Madison, Wisconsin. And so again, those of you went on the trip before, we visited this garden. So I met up with a friend, Susan Martin, who was actually supposed to be our speaker last month. Susan from Holland, Michigan. She was also attending the Ball Trial Day. And so we actually ended up visiting these other gardens together. And so just a few shots, not a few, I got a bunch of shots of Obrecht. Obrecht is a beautiful botanic garden, and again, in Madison, Wisconsin. So some shots of it, the water garden there. I'll go through these kind of quickly because there's a lot here. They do some fun things with different plant material. I mean, look at this, is blue fescue and aloe together. I mean, who would have thought about putting those plants together? But the different textures and forms are really fun. Of course, a lotus flower, I love lotus, beautiful plant in bloom. For those of you who watch Celeste and I, and also on my garden page, the Facebook Lives, I'm always talking about Kufia. I get so excited when I find a new Kufia. And so I found this Kufia at the Botanic Garden, and it was unlabeled. I have found out the name since then, but I've forgotten it, so I got to double check that again. But I'm hoping to have this next year. So it's a deep purple Kufia. You know, Kufia are fantastic for attracting the pollinators to the garden. The bees, the butterflies, the hummingbirds, they're just full of nectar. They're tough plants. They're drought tolerant. They're easy to grow in the pot, easy to grow in the ground. You know, some of them are marginally hardy. So anyway, I'm excited about this Kufia. So hope to have it at the spring sale. Again, I've forgotten the name. I meant to look it up before I started tonight. Love the flower garden walk here with the annuals on either side. We've got stick verbena, Verbena bonariensis, and then Cleome growing there. Love those combinations. Heliotrope, one of those plants that, you know, we're not going to do very successfully. That's in the blue flower right in the center. I forget how to make. Can y'all see my cursor? Okay, good. So that's heliotrope. It's kind of like a vanilla fragrance. Again, not very heat tolerant. We can grow, I've just gone blank. Somebody help me here. Blue monk's a common name. Oh, good grief.
Ageratum, or
Ageratum, yes. We can do ageratum here, and you know, there's annual forms, and then there's the perennial form that's actually a eupatorium, but looks very similar to it. But we can do ageratum here. You know, it's a plant that's kind of fallen out of favor, and I'm not sure why, but maybe I need to bring it back. Maybe I need to offer some at the plant sale. And then look at the beautiful Lisianthus here, and of course the white zinnia. Speaking of Lisianthus, I don't know if y'all got by and saw our planting of Lisianthus this year in the garden. It was at the back entrance of the main parking lot, the entrance of the building there. We had a beautiful, deep, deep pink Lisianthus that overwintered, and it flowered like crazy. I know we talked about it on Facebook. We posted pictures of it, so I hope you got by and saw it. It was incredible. Lisianthus is really a biennial, and it flowers much better the second year, but the problem is it's not reliably hardy. So if you don't get it through the winter, it doesn't make it and doesn't get the flower good. But we had such a mild winter last year that it did. We actually just cut them back this last week, and we're hoping if we have another mild winter, they'll bloom again for us. So, but yeah.
Hey, Jason, I wanted to say if you'll go back one more picture back to that ageratum,
Yes.
Morse Nursery has a native perennial form, the Eupatorium genus, and it's a little darker purple than that, and they had a lot of those for sale this fall. So if you were looking for something similar to that perennial to add to your garden, they had a native form of that.
Yeah, that perennial form it blooms in late summer, and again, it's a Eupatorium. I can't think of the species right at the moment, but it's a great plant. I grew up with it on the farm. It grew a little bit more on our farm in wetter areas, and I love cutting on it in the fall and making, or late summer, and making arrangements out of it. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Celeste. That's a great plant. So. All right, coleus. I all love coleus. We offer a huge selection of coleus at our spring sale. These are all grown in containers that they've set out for the summer. And I just love this combination here of all these different kinds. And you can dig down in there. They were all labeled. I mean, they were really organized. They kept up with all the labels on them. Isn't that beautiful? So there's my friend Susan Martin. Again, she was supposed to be our speaker at our October meeting. So she's scheduled for next October. Susan worked many years for Walters Gardens. Walters Gardens is the leading producer of wholesale perennials in the United States, and that's where we get most of our perennials from that we grow for our sales. They come in bare root, most of them. Some are grown in little containers, and we get from them. But and then she now does marketing and communication for Proven Winners. She writes catalogs for different companies, more so wholesale companies, some retail, but she designs and writes the catalogs and descriptions. So she works from home. And then beside it is Mark Dwyer, and Mark used to live in Madison, or maybe he still does, but no, actually doesn't. He lives in Janesville, Illinois, not too far from Madison. But Mark met us at the garden there because he was very familiar with it, and it was good to see him, another horticulturist. And I'll show some pictures of the garden where he used to work here a little bit later. So yeah, wandering through the garden in Old Brick. I love the white birch. Of course, it won't grow in the heat of the South. A little bit of whimsy of branches here. And then we're on the way to the Thai garden. And so love this boggy, swampy area here. There's the Cinderella swamp milkweed. And of course, the butterflies coming to it. On the way, a cornelian cherry, Cornus moss, with its beautiful fruit hanging down. This is a dogwood we can grow. I have sold this one a few years ago. I've had it at the plant sale before. You can make a pie out of this. I will tell you that you'll need more sugar than you will fruit to make it edible. It's extremely tart, but it has a big seed in it too. But it is a dogwood, but it does taste similar to a cherry. So love cottonwood trees. Look at those big old cottonwood trees growing along the stream bank there. And then we're walking again over to the Thai Pavilion. So the Thai Pavilion was a gift to the the University of Wisconsin from Thailand, because they have a really big program with the Thai people in there. More students, I think, attend that university in the United States, Thai, than any other university with that population of Thai. So they gave this university, and then it was put in the Botanic Garden there for all the public to see. So it's valued at $1.5 million, and it was made in Thailand. It was shipped over here, spent 8 weeks crossing the ocean on a boat, and made it to Chicago, and then from Chicago it made it by train to Madison, and then eight Thai craftspeople came over and assembled it in the garden. So beautiful structure there, and it does have real gold on it. So just a great gift from the Thai. Beautiful water feature around it. Oh my gosh, I'm so in love with this plant. So for years, I have grown a toothache plant, Strobilanthes. I'm sorry, not Strobilanthes, Spilanthes. And it's always been the orange and kind of rusty color flower, which I really like, and has dark burgundy foliage. But then I saw this one that just has these lemon drop flowers. So they're all yellow. If you look closely here, it has no petals. So these little heads are just tiny flowers all compacted together, really, really tight in there. So there's not any petals, but I'm looking forward to that. We're gonna hopefully have that at the spring sale. Isn't that just fun? I think it's called lemon drop. We never could decide for sure. And then beside it here, we've got this beautiful, this is red rice. I've grown the red rice in the past. I love that beautiful foliage. And then of course, black pearl pepper that's been around 15 years now that we have at the sale every year. Also excited about this elephant ear. This is the the Hawaiian series, and this one's called Hawaiian Punch. I have not been able to find a wholesale source for it yet to have for the plant sale, but we are going to have quite a few elephant ears. I've got 3 or 4 different kind that we're going to have this year. We had a few at our online sale this year. It went really well, and they've looked great in the garden. We had Coffee Cup and I've forgotten the other one we had in the garden. They did really well. But anyway, I'm hoping to get this one. But if not, look for this at your local garden center nursery. So again, Hawaiian Punch. Aren't those stems just gorgeous? I thought this was fun. This is a dead tree that had died in the garden. It was still somewhat stable. So they attached bromeliads and sphagnum, Spanish moss to it. Isn't that fun? I love that. Love this zinnia. Have you have to? Oh, it's called Peppermint. One of the Peppermint series. Isn't that great? It's a zinnia elegans, so it's not going to last all summer for us because it'll probably get powdery mildew. But so what? Enjoy it for the couple months that you do. That is so much fun. Kind of a dry garden. There's our Echinacea tennesseeensis on the right there, a native Echinacea growing in then Amsonia in the background, and there's an assortment of alliums there as well. I just love how they combined various plants together. I mean, they right here in the bottom, there's a few pieces of stepping stones that have been removed, and they've just plopped in, you know, a Dracaena and Verbena and the tropical bromeliad and coleus. So just a fun combination. Isn't that great? And there's lantana. So don't think about putting all these things together, but it just really makes for a nice scene. And this is a Salvia argentea, which can struggle in our heat and humidity. It's a biennial, so the first year you just got this foliage, and then you would have flowers the following year. But I love that big bold leaf. Tricolor beech. This is a European beech, not going to survive in the heat of the South, but beautiful where you can grow it. So love, love, love that. On to different parts of the garden. Another water feature. Again, mixing those tropicals and perennials and shrubs all together, they do a fantastic job doing that. There's that Allium Millennium again. And then I don't know if you even tried to grow this. I've tried it once, and I should try it again. But believe it or not, this is the dianthus. And you can probably guess what its name is, called green balls. Or maybe it's green ball. But you know where I see this most frequently is in cut flower arrangements, even at Kroger. When you buy those arrangements that are in bundles, sometimes you'll have this in it. And in those arrangements, it'll have really long stems. So it was grown, I'm sure, in Central America in floral production where you have real long stems. And it makes a great cut flower. So there are really no flowers there. It is the sepals, and the sepals, the sepals around a flower of the part is kind of a modified petal or a modified leaf that forms a sepal. And the sepal often protects the flower before it opens up. So these are more or less all sepals and no flowers. And so it forms this beautiful green ball. So a lot of fun. And that's not new. That's probably been around 10 years or more. So there's another beautiful banana. Just a few more of their structures. Love the water feature. Love this espaliered ginkgo. You know, ginkgos are slow growing. It's probably too late for me, but Celeste, you need to get started soon. But, you know, look how they've trained it along the wall. Isn't that gorgeous? Love their bee boxes. A couple shots of bee boxes. And so these are for solitary bees. And there's so much press about these over the last couple years. But, you know, we have so many bees that get overlooked that are good pollinators, but they're not our European honeybee that we so treasure for the wonderful honey, but also as a pollinator. They're solitary bees, so they don't live in hives. They live more or less alone. And so they actually lay their eggs in these hollow tubes. And the first experience I really had with these was growing up on the farm. My granddad owned a farm that had some big gullies on it, big washed out banks. And there were bees that denned in those in these individual holes. So they dug these little holes out in the bank of the soil, and they lived in those holes. Well, then about 6 or 7 years ago, we had stored a bunch of bamboo in the rafters behind one of the buildings at work, behind the woodworking shop. It's got open rafters, and we'd stored our bamboo canes in there. And oh my gosh, the solitary bees found those, and they were just loving it. So they were going in those hollow tubes. So you can build something like this yourself, or you can buy something. Now, I just recently listened to a podcast from Margaret Roach, A Way to Garden. If you're a podcast listener, you might want to look up Margaret Roach. She used to be the garden editor for Martha Stewart Living. She has a wonderful podcast. And again, it's called A Way to Garden. And their guest that was on this, the podcast, was talking about you need to be careful if you're purchasing these bee houses to buy them that have tubes that are long. A lot of them have these tubes that are just a couple inches long, and it's really not long enough to protect the juvenile or the bee in its dormant state in the wintertime, or the egg or the larvae in there, and it can actually freeze. So keep that in mind if you're buying these. You want a bee box that has really long tubes in it. I thought this was really fun. They actually inserted these in this stone wall here. I keep reaching for my mouse, Celeste, and I'm on a laptop. But they inserted these in, look at this. So they've used cinder block and brick, and they've inserted these long tubes in there for the bees to build in. So, and you can, let's see, I think the next picture, maybe right here. Oh yeah, you can see, if you look right here, you can see the dust here. This is actually where the bees are hollowing some of them out. So they're pulling out pieces of the tissue, and it's falling in that spider web. So and we can see the little bees going in and out. So you can do this at home. You're actually better off, as opposed to buying bamboo, you're actually better off to go out in the woods on your farm, in the sides of the road, and find plant material that has hollow stems like goldenrod. So in the fall, going out, cutting off stems and finding those that are hollow, or they don't have to be hollow, they just need a pith that's soft. So the center of the stem needs to be soft where the bee can easily excavate it. Lilies, actually like tiger lilies, they have a hollow stem. So you can do that yourself. You can gather those twigs up and insert those somewhere in the garden for those to attract the solitary bees. So keep that in mind, a lot of fun. Love this cosmos. This is called Cupcake. Isn't that fun? So all the petals, and not all of them, you can see some here that are not, but this particular one here, they're all fused together. So like a cupcake, or the little paper cup that you would put around a cupcake. So love that. So easy to grow from seed. You know, you could order these seed right now. Speaking of seed and vegetables and any plant, if you're one that orders things through the mail, you need to get your orders in yesterday. A lot of the companies are already out. I'm telling you, Lucas Holman, a buddy of mine, and Celeste, he's already telling me that some tomatoes are already sold out for next year. I mean, I think gardening is going to be just as big, if not bigger. And so those companies are already selling out. So if there's things you depend on ordering through the mail or buying seed, you need to go ahead and get your orders in soon. Now, don't be a hog. Only order what you're going to use, because you need to let the other person have some things too. So keep that in mind. Don't stock up a whole bunch of seed, because the growers are going to catch up. I mean, the wholesalers are going to catch up with it, and there's going to be plenty in the future. So don't order more than you think you can use, because you don't want to take away from other people as well. Love the stone structure in the garden. A lot of fun. Fun ginkgos. You know, I've been collecting ginkgos and selling them in our plant sale, the dwarf farms. This is one called Jade Butterfly. Look at that leaf. It's kind of shredded looking. Here it is in the garden. So it's more like a big round ball. It's not going to be this tall, slender plant. Yeah, Jade Butterfly. There's the name of it. And there's Mark standing beside it. So again, I'm trying to collect those ginkgos for the gardens, but also make them available to you. A lot of us don't have room for a great big ginkgo, or we don't have time in our life for it to mature, but we could grow one of these smaller ones. So look for those at our plant sales. Don't you love this combination? There's that azuratum and then the dinosaur kale. Now, dinosaur kale is a really good kale for us to grow in the South in the wintertime. It's one of the more hardy kales. So you would plant it in the fall. It's probably too late now. You're not going to be able to find seed this late, and it really would need to be more established before now to make it through the winter. But look for it next year. In the summer, you can grow it in Chicago, but it's just too hot in the South to get it throughout the summer. Also, we would be covered up with cabbage loopers on it here in the South. It'd be eat up if we were trying to get it through the summer. Azuratum down below. Up above is dog fennel, another eupatorium, a native eupatorium in that shot. So love those color combinations, the different texture forms. Oops. Another shot of it. Again, who would think about kale and elephant ears together? But again, in that climate, it does quite well. And isn't that just a fun combination? Love those textures. And then our last garden on my Chicago trip was Rotary Garden. And Rotary is a botanic garden in Janesville, Illinois. And I don't know how we missed this garden, never heard about it. when we were there doing our garden tour there about 5 years ago. But this is where Mark Dwyer, the guy I showed you a little bit earlier, did work. And so lots of fun things going on there. So bits of formal garden like you see here. I love these structures, these obelisks they've painted blue, looking fun in the garden. They have a platform you can stand up on and look down on the garden. And then their theme this year was pollinators. And there was about 50 of these bees scattered about the garden. And what they did, it was a wooden frame, and different artists or different people took them and they decorated them and then brought them back. And some of them were extremely creative. I would love to do something like this in the garden sometime, where we have some kind of, and Knoxville does this. They build like a framework of something and then let people do their own thing to it. So this is just so creative. This one's stained glass. Isn't that incredible?
Wouldn't it be fun if we got like the high school art departments or something like that in Madison
Absolutely.
County?
So I took tons of pictures of these. I've deleted most of these out, but I actually took pictures of how they built them and all the screws and nuts and bolts. So if we want to recreate this, we can. So maybe we can get Charlie to make us some framework and get some different people or students to participate. Another espalier. Espalier is the name for growing something flat against a surface. So here again against the visitor center there, I think this was an apple where they'd grown it flat. Those of you who've watched me Facebook Live a couple weeks ago, I showed a picture of on the video of my mother's winter star camellia that we've espaliered. And Sharon Ryder, I think on here tonight, she's got an espaliered variegated Rosa Sharon on her house. So we do a lot of fun things. Jimmy Williams in Paris has an espaliered Rosa Sharon. So, you know, if you're growing something espaliered, in my opinion, it doesn't need to be something that's real slow growing, because you want it to look like something in a few years. But you don't need to grow something that's going to grow like crazy, because you're going to be trimming it all the time. So something kind of a medium growth rate would be good. I love some of these sayings. They had these park benches scattered throughout the garden. We have not inherited the earth from our fathers. We are borrowing it from our children. Isn't that great? So yeah, they had like 50 of these benches with these beautiful slogans or sayings on them. Asian garden there, so a few shots of it. Love this bridge. And similar to the zigzag bridge you may be familiar with. For instance, there's one at the Missouri Botanic Garden where evil spirits are said not to follow a straight line. So as you walk the evil spirits will continue on straight, and they'll drown in the water. Beautiful Asian bridge. Again, fun combinations and textures in the garden. There's that, Celeste, we just talked about that Tuesday on Facebook Live. There's the bed of nails. If you haven't grown bed of nails, you should. It's just a fun plant. Celeste and I showed it on Facebook Live, the fruit on it the other day.
That one doesn't look as nearly as pokey as ours.
You know, it doesn't. Some of them are not as thorny. They're seed grown, so there is some variation. Yeah, I can't even see the thorns on that, but I'm sure you had some. Love this little maze or labyrinth, you know, for meditation. I would like to do something like this in the gardens in Jackson sometime. You know, it's really not that difficult. I think you can buy these kits, but that's just like cobblestone, like you would use to make a patio out of. Look at this bee. Isn't that creative? So most of that was wire they had made into different shapes. Another saying, every blade in the field, every leaf in the forest lays down its life in its season as beautifully as it was taken up. And this reminds me of the church hymn. When I read this, in the garden, I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses. So that's a verse in one of my church hymns. It's also a lake there. Love these Adirondack chairs painted in fun colors. Why don't we all paint our furniture in fun colors? Just a few more bees. This is in the children's garden. Just a few shots of it. Isn't this one great? We'd have to get married to work on some of these. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, Chicago Botanic Garden. That was my last garden in the Chicago area. But yeah, the Chicago Botanic Garden. Of course, many of you have been there. Chicago Botanic Garden, the Missouri Botanic Garden in St. Louis, and Longwood Gardens are said to be the 3 top gardens in the United States. And they're all 3 very different. Chicago and Missouri Botanic Garden in St. Louis are very much into education and research, to do a lot of research as well. And we had time tickets there. You had to sign up online ahead of time for entry time. Again, we wore masks while we were there. And they were closed, as most public places were for a while. When they reopened, I thought it was really nice. They really promoted, welcome back and thanks for coming. And the gardens look great. Just like us at the gardens in Jackson, their volunteers were cut out. And so they actually had some little signs here and there saying, please apologize the weeds. We didn't get our volunteers. But overall, the gardens look great. And so it was fun visiting there. So again, some beautiful combinations of different plant material. Another beautiful lotus. If you're not familiar with this plant, it's a Victorian water platter. It's a type of water lily. It's a tropical water lily. Actually, most gardens that grow this have to have heated pools because they have to heat their pools up early enough in the spring that they can get it going, because it takes it a while to get it started each year. And then they overwinter that tuber indoors in vats of water that are kept warm in the wintertime. So a lot of work goes in those. It's a really fun plant. Gladiolas, why are we not all growing gladiolas? They're so easy. Yeah, they fall over sometime, but so what? Cut it off and take it in the house. So, that's something as we're doing this amaryllis sale right now, that's got me thinking about other little specialty sales. So, maybe I'll order some real odd amaryllis. There's some gladiolas, some really unique gladiolas, and have those for sale sometime. But I love gladiolas. It's one of about 5 plants, one of the first plants that I remember my mother and I growing together. I think we ordered them from Michigan Bulb Company. Mother's walked back in the hotel room. Her and Julie gone out to get dinner, and I smell mine. All right. Annabelle hydrangeas, one of those white birches. Beautiful water feature. I'm in love with this lily. So again, I got thinking about when I was working on this presentation, maybe next year I'll order some lily bulbs, some really interesting lily bulbs, and we can just sell the bulbs in the fall. So this is one called Flora Plenty, which means double flower, big floral. But isn't that fun? It's like a big old double spider lily. It's almost creepy looking. I love it. Cardoon, we all love cardoon, easy to grow. Dahlias, if I lived in the north, I'd be in the Dahlia Society. But in the south, don't do so well in our heat. Nice bonsai collection. And Darlene, I was thinking of you and David when I threw these pictures in here. I love how they have this frosted glass in the background. Here's a bald cypress. And then this is what it looks like from the backside with the sunlight coming through. Isn't that fun? It gives you the shadow on that frosted glass. So yeah, that bald cypress was 60 to 80 years old. I'll tell you, I respect people that grow bonsai. I do not have the patience for them. Boulevard cypress, this would be a 30-foot tall shrub in your landscape at maturity. And here they've got it bonsai'd. And this one's 20 to 30 years old, so it's a young thing. If you haven't ever grown variegated corn, you might want to look for this. We've grown a few times. You just order a pack of variegated corn seed. Quad Color is one of the cultivars. And so you're really growing it for the foliage. It does produce a little corn ear, but nothing that you would want to eat. Isn't that fun with those different colors? Of course, it doesn't. When it gets really hot, it kind of begins to go down, just like corn in your vegetable garden would be. It'd be pretty for maybe a couple months, but love those colors. Hadn't seen it in a couple years, so maybe think about it. Some of those manfredias, if you got to the gardens this year, we had mangave. We had mangaves growing in the front of the building, very similar to these. They were sent to us by Hans Hansen at Walters, and they did the same thing to the Chicago Botanic Garden. We actually just moved all these in last week, and we decided not to move them in the greenhouse because we're going to run out of space. So we moved them in one of the buildings at work, what we call Hort. That's a block building that's traditionally not heated, but it doesn't freeze. Now, if it does get really, really cold, we can turn a little heater on in there. But we're going to overwinter our mangaves, our bananas, our cannas that we're overwintering, our elephant ears in there this year. And then we'll bring them out, the ones that we're going to grow for the sale. We'll bring them out in March and pop them up and get them going in the greenhouse. But it'll save space. And a lot of places just like a little rest period. So we're doing that with those mangaves. Into the English garden. Just a couple shots here. Love this collection of specialty geraniums. Again, they're very English looking there. And a little bit more about water garden. I think I might have got these out of order. These are tropical water lilies. If the water lily's flower is held above the water, it's tropical. If it floats on the water, it's the hardy type. And then onto their trial garden. So they do trials as well. And so we'll just look at a few plants across the pond at their trial garden. They do a lot with hardy hibiscus. They're working with red hot pokers, which I love red hot poker. I struggle with them. I've killed lots of them in the gardens at work. I don't think they like our poor draining soil and our humidity. And then lots of echinacea. You know, everybody's working on echinacea, looking for those better cultivars. Lots of echinacea. Some of the same ones that we saw at Ball. There's the Sombre series. And there's Richard Hockey there on the right, and he's over the trial gardens there. And so we met with him and walked around the gardens and talked about some of the cool plants there. There's that same totem pole, panicum. Again, we'll have it to sell in the spring. And Susan and Richard beside it. This is a sycamore that we have planted on the garden, in the gardens in Jackson, called Ovation. And it's only about maybe 8 feet taller now. And it's kind of near, it's not really part of the garden you would walk to, but someday it'll be beautiful like this and you'll notice it. But Ovation is the name of it. So it's actually a London plane tree. So it's a hybrid between sycamore and the other species of sycamore, the couple different species. And then I just want to finish up here. Sue's not aware of this, but when I got my talk together, I mentioned some of the gardens I was visited and didn't know at the time I was going to be going to Hot Springs. And so I went to Hot Springs with Andy and Becky Pulte. Andy, many of you know Andy. He teaches horticulture at Knoxville. It's been a secret summer celebration many times. And he's my travel companion during conference times and also international trips together. But we've got Becky on the left here, Theo, and Tobias, and then Andy there. So they invited me to go to Theo, here on the left, his 10th birthday trip. So he, for his 10th birthday, he was allowed to choose a trip, and he decided he wanted to go crystal hunting. So we went to Hot Springs. So just a few pictures real quick of Hot Springs National Park. I feel like probably 30, 40, 50 years ago, this was a happening place to be. I've seen better days, and it is a national park, and it's all right in downtown. So just a few pictures of all these buildings were closed due to COVID. It's interesting to see this hot water bubbling. I mean, it's just side of the park there, bubbling out of the ground. But this is what amazed me. I've been here once before with my parents years ago, but I don't remember seeing this. The promenade, this is up the street from the bathhouses, this beautiful walking area with this brickwork. And all along the way were interesting plants. Now, most of these plants, again, were probably planted in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Many of them had seen better days. But there were some really interesting plants. And I didn't realize until I was there and saw plants that weren't very hardy for us, Hot Springs is actually a half a zone warmer than we are. We're more like Memphis. So I would have thought they were probably equal to us. But they're really more like Memphis. So there were plants there I hadn't seen before. For instance, this Photinia serratifolia, with this serrated leaf. Isn't that crazy? So, you know, you're familiar with red tip Photinia probably. Well, this is, Photinia serratifolia, and then the fruit on it. So, we were playing around here. You don't see the steam, but there was steam coming up. We were getting a facial from the Hot Springs here. But a lot of fun being with the boys. Beautiful painting on the street, on the side of a building. And then I saw the largest planting of Splendor Silhouette. You all know I love Splendor Silhouette. I talk about it all the time, our native tall, slender, sweet gum. This parking lot in business had 25 of these planted, and it was so cool. Look at how they've tucked those in around the building there. Fun plant. And then just a few shots real quick of, we went there again. It was crystal hunting. If you've not been to Hot Springs or Mount Ida area to go crystal hunting, you can pay and you can dig for quartz crystals. So we actually paid a little extra, and we actually got down in the ditch where they dynamited that morning and then dug some out for us to dig down in. And so it was a little steep. So we got down in there and we hunted away for crystals. And there's Tobias and Theo and I. And this is something you'll probably never see or haven't seen before. I actually took a nap. I was tired, and so was Ruby. Ruby is their new puppy. It was down below me there, and I laid down and took a nap, and obviously Becky got a picture of it. But we had a lot of fun, so it was a lot of work. Unfortunately, I didn't get any pictures of the actual crystals. They're covered in red dirt while you're there, so you really can't see them very well, and they took most of them home with them, so I didn't get any pictures, but it's a fun place to go. But I'll end with this last garden. So many of you went to Garvin Woodland Gardens with me a few years ago on our Hot Springs, Arkansas and Little Rock trip. And so Theo was up for going to Garvin Gardens, even though this was his birthday trip. And so we had a great time there. So this is the chapel. They were getting ready to have a wedding, so we couldn't actually go in it. Fun. And this is the Caleron Bell Tower. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Is it Caleron? Something like that. It's music that they could play from this. That was really cool. And then their new feature that we were really excited to see, and Theo was the tree house. Well, I was expecting to be in a tree. Well, not really. And a really good tree house shouldn't be in a tree because you don't want to hurt the tree, and you want it to be there for years to come. This thing was massive. So if you look here, you can see the people down below in this patio area, and then you can see the tree house above. So with COVID restrictions, they let one family in at a time, and so we were able to go in. So this is looking at it from the side where you cannot enter and exit, and I didn't get a picture of actually the entrance side. You can see it's in amongst the trees. There's Becky sitting on a stool. The artwork inside of it was incredible. This is a brass pine cone stool. Isn't that incredible? And then this bench out of, you want to guess what kind of pods these are? It's definitely a legume, so it is redbud. So these are redbud pods, and it made a bench. There I am sitting on it. That was fun. And then the squirrel. So there's lots of brass features in the treehouse itself. And then looking down from it, some of you may remember walking across this bridge when we went there, but they've added this ironwork to it and made it a little bit more of a children's garden. Of course, the fall blooming camellias were just spectacular. I'm excited that I have secured about maybe 8 or 10 different kinds of fall blooming camellias that we should have at the spring sale. So there's supposed to be shipped from Chem2 Camellias in South Carolina sometime in March or early April, and we've sold hardy camellias from them in the past, so just been unable to get them the last couple of years, but I've got them ordered and we should have those. So many of the fall blooming camellias are hardier. Many of them are zone 6 camellias, and so they're more tolerant of our cold. Also, I feel like fall blooming camellias get a better chance of blooming than the ones that start blooming in February and March, because we still have lots of freezing temperatures in February and March, and so the buds get froze on them, and not so much the case with the fall blooming ones. So love the camellias. This is called fall daffodil, and it's not a daffodil at all. I don't even remember the genus. It starts with an S, but it looks a little bit looks more like a crocus, but it's yellow. So they call it fall daffodil. I did have this at work one time, and I think it got trampled during some renovation on the building, and I lost it, but kind of a fun plant you don't see very often. There's the Pulte family with Ruby. And, I'm not a dog person, but I tell you, Ruby is the best dog I've ever been around. I actually kept her one night, the first night, at my house while the Pultes were at Lone Oaks. And then, went on the trip with them. There's, again, another Photinia, and I got a label of it. Look at this one. This is Seriolata. And look at the trunk on that thing. So I got to look this up. I'm not sure if it's hardy for us, but beautiful evergreen. It just grows in the shade. So, it's kind of hard to find. It'll grow in sun or shade. Kind of hard to find evergreen trees that will grow in the shade, but nice plant. Fatsia japonica, you're not going to see that over winter in Jackson, or at least not for very long. But you will in Memphis, so growing outdoors there. So again, a little bit warmer than we were there. There's a Theo having fun. That fun trickles off on me as well. So being a little silly there. Beautiful water gardens there. If you've never made it to Garvin Woodland Gardens, you need to check it out in Hot Springs. So love the beautiful Moon Bridge. And then there's a little bit of trial garden, just a few shots from it. Love this celosia. None of the stuff was labeled in this garden, so I've got to find out what the celosia is. Isn't that great? So it's a wheat top celosia, but the color was just so intense and so deep. So, celosias grow well. They're fantastic pollinator plants. They'll also reseed for you in the garden and make good cut flowers. And I'll just end up here with, I got 3 shots of mums. I'm not a big mum fan, especially when you do this with them, but people love them. And of course, it gets lots of attention in the garden. So it was very colorful. So it was a good summer. Despite the COVID restrictions, it was actually a little bit more calm for me. I will say, when I lost you volunteers in March, it was very stressful there for a couple months. Put in a huge amount of time making up for all those hours that y'all do. But then after we got everything planted and all the gardens going, It was kind of a little bit of break not to have summer celebration. I wasn't traveling to conferences, which I enjoy, but it's also nice to kind of be a little bit more laid back and at home some. So it turned out to be, I think overall we made good of the year. And again, we had a great fall plant sale, and we're planning for next spring. And I hope you're planning for your garden. And it's still beautiful weather. Get out in the garden and enjoy it as long as you can. And yeah, be gearing up for our next season. So hope you enjoy these pictures of my travels this summer and fall, and gave you something a little bit more to think about. So I'll end with this slide here again. Into the garden I go to lose my mind and find my soul. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jason. That was so nice. I like to, live through your experiences, because generally, well, since I've started with Extension, I've only gotten to go on one of our Master Gardener trips with y'all. And that was when Lane was a baby, and I just brought him with us. But ever since then, I haven't gotten to go, and I just love getting to see all these gardens. And I'm enjoying the times while my kids are small, but I look forward to the time when I get to go with y'all too and see all this fun stuff, and visit all these neat gardens and trials and all this kind of stuff. So that was super fun, and I just felt like I got to go on a little mini adventure there. So thank you.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, has anybody got questions? Let's see. We've got lots of people in the chat box saying, thanks, that was so great, wonderful presentation, enjoyed the evening. I'm glad y'all had a good evening. I did too. It's been nice just kind of visiting, and they say stay safe, and just lots of good positive comments, and thanks for everything. Oh, someone, let's see who, Cindy did say, yes, why are my daffodils coming up now? Well, they've gotten confused. Our growing season has been so long, they've just gotten confused. And I have some perennials that are doing the same thing. They're putting on like new growth that would typically be their spring growth, like my yarrow, bee balm, like everything's coming back with a second flush, but they will have a rude awakening in a few days.
With the daffodils, people always get concerned, and yeah, it is earlier. I mean, some always come up a little early, but yeah, it seems to be even earlier this year. Don't worry about them. They are tough plants. They've got antifreeze built in there. It's not gonna hurt anything. Sometimes the tips will get a little bit ratty during the winter time. If they come up really early, those flower buds will be fine. Rarely have I seen a daffodil flower bud die from the cold. I mean, they're really tough. So don't worry about it. Don't try to cover it. Just let nature take its course.
Cool. I will say before people start, logging off, and I put all this in our email. I sent everybody an update email last week, and then I resent that same information earlier this week along with our newsletter. But don't worry about your hours. I've been trying to impress that upon everyone this year. I'm not gonna, we're not doing like penalties for not meeting our requirements or anything like that. But if you have done volunteer work, or if you have done even if it's education, even if it's education and not service specifically, let's get that reported, because I still have to turn my federal and state reporting in regardless of what we got to do or not. So if you did do some things, please go ahead and get on our database and put that in the system. I'd love to have that by the second Friday in November. So that would be not this coming, like not tomorrow, but next Friday. We've got a little over a week. If you could do that. And again, remember, I'm not a stickler for exact dates or anything like that. You just find an area where you feel like it fits, and get maybe in the month that you think it happened in, and that'll be perfectly fine. So if we do certainly want to report those things that we've gotten done this year, so please do that. Of course, if you have any questions, just let me know. You can shoot me an email. That'll probably be the fastest way to get to me about that. I see some questions in here. How do you record Master Gardener meetings? Master Gardener monthly meetings count as 1 hour of continued education. So you can certainly report your attendance to our, and we want you to report your attendance to our Master Gardener monthly meetings. Noah says he has some liripes that have crown rot, and that is something that is, I don't want to say it happens all the time, but it is something that they happen to be susceptible to. So you would want to, I'd dig that section out if it were me. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I would dig it out and put it in the trash, not in your compost, and that whole little area out. And you know, we think monkey grass or liripe is tough as nails, but it can have some problems. So yeah, get rid of that.
Cool. All right. What else we got? We got more questions? Oh, Edna said tonight was more than an hour. Do we still put an hour? Yeah, we only count monthly meetings for 1 hour. So, because a lot of that is, you know, business and us catching up with things, but education, we just go with 1 hour for monthly meetings. But good question. Thanks. All right. Okay, well, I don't want to keep y'all. I know we're getting on into the evening. We're up to about 8:15. And again, I want to thank Jason for being our speaker tonight and joining us, even though he is abroad, out, kind of venturing into the West. I was joking with him. I told him earlier this week, I said, to me, anything that's past the Mississippi, like we just say West. Are you going Midwest, Southwest, Northwest? It doesn't matter. You've gone West. So we wish you happy travels and safe returns, and we shall see you next week.